764 is the teen-run online cult that has pushed kids to carve symbols into their skin, torture their own animals, blackmail each other, brand themselves, film their own self-harm, and sometimes deletion. These disturbed teens have terrorized a generation, and in some cases, turned victims into predators. And the most shocking part is, this is not run by some elite predator mastermind. This is run by a former church-going kid that was 15 when he started the group. And what he built from his bedroom was one of the most horrific instances of internet crime, so depraved that the FBI rated them as a Tier 1 terrorist group. But before we dive into Bradley Cadenhead and his horrifying creation of the group 764, we have to see how bad this really got. This is the level of terror and depravity they enacted on their top-tier victim, Trinity.
14-year-old Trinity was the ideal target for 764, having experienced SA as a child by a family member and seeking validation from others, only to get sucked into this online cult by other teens.
I met these people on accident. One of my friends was showing me these gore videos on Discord, invited me to one of them, and then I ended up talking in those servers.
Those servers are private groups on platforms like Discord and Telegram. It's where 764 members groom their victims.
I saw lots of girls covered in blood, lots of starving girls. There was a video of a girl who hung herself on her closet, lots of animals being tortured. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible, but I also wanted to fit in. So a lot of people came to me and asked me to do things for them, and because I was literally a mind fuck, I did it.
And this is exactly what Trinity got victimized into doing.
Trinity's diary became her witness.
I'd been distinctly manipulated, then dropped into the hands of evil.
She wrote about how within weeks, at least a dozen 764 members around the world were exploiting her. She even outlined the cuts they forced her to make on her body.
How scared were you? Terrified. Absolutely terrified.
Trinity says she soon fell under MKUltra's control. Over the next few months, she did whatever he demanded, without ever knowing his real identity, even writing a letter to him, splattered with her own blood.
MK, I will shed more than my own blood for you. I will hurt others for you, to show you how much I truly love you. I can't get enough of you. I need you so bad. I'm nothing without you.
She says he forced her to brand herself by carving his screen name into her chest.
You want that?
Trinity says MKUltra also demanded she sacrifice her pets and her own mother.
Trinity, like so many others, was at risk of no longer being just a victim.
Investigators say many of the most active members started as victims themselves, brought in young, manipulated and broken down, and then built back up again as part of the system. They stay because they're scared, or because it's the only place where they feel accepted. But over time, they become recruiters, becoming the thing they once feared. And that's what makes this group so hard to stop. It regenerates.
But before things could escalate that far, Trinity finally got the help she needed to get out of 764. Unbeknownst to Trinity, around the same time, Kier Cutler, username MKUltra, was actually arrested in the US for child SA material and exploiting hundreds of people. And his age? 19 years old, which means he was 16 when he first began exploiting Trinity. This wasn't a disturbed pedo-predator. This was another teenager.
And fast forward, years later, 764 has not only become the most extreme and dangerous threat to teens online, but is primarily run by teens, to the point where now we have the FBI director giving a warning and labeling the 764 group as a Tier 1 terrorist organization, which happens to be the highest threat level.
Maybe most importantly, under the counterterrorism and domestic terrorism umbrella, are nihilist, violent extremists, and those that label themselves 764, who wish to go online and convince children to maim and mutilate themselves and commit suicide. And we are producing record numbers of arrests under that umbrella organization. We even stopped an individual in the 764 network who wanted to conspire to kill an adolescent girl. He is now in custody.
Now, shockingly, Trinity made it out of the cult, but not before things got even more extreme, which we will talk about a little later. But let's rewind, because this didn't start with Trinity and Kiera Cutler. It started with a church-going 15-year-old kid, Bradley Cadenhead. Crichton does a great breakdown of what led Bradley down this path and how it introduced him to online communities in the darkest places.
Everything started when Bradley Cadenhead, a 15-year-old from Texas, became involved with a Discord server named Cult. This server is important because it inspired Bradley to create 764 a few months later, and it also introduced him to certain strategies on how to exploit other children. He learned much of this knowledge from Rohan, who was the founder of the Cult server and also a master manipulator. He would recruit minors who he considered to be vulnerable on Instagram and Roblox, and then he would pretend to be in a romantic relationship with them in order to obtain new photos, addresses, and other personal information. As soon as he obtained that first piece of leverage, he knew that he had complete control, and literally began referring to his victims using the word slaves from that point onward. He'd blackmail them into live streaming degrading acts such as harming themselves and creating CP.
764 was started by a teenager, but what pushed Bradley over the edge, going from a church kid to running a cult operation capable of executing intense psychological warfare on other teens?
Bradley was already a troubled teen prior to his engagement in any of this though, as he was relentlessly bullied as a child, and he even threatened to become a school shooter. His parents got divorced, and it is suspected that his mother abused him, although this is unconfirmed. In middle school, his teacher overheard him repeatedly talking about bombs and weapons, and he was seen repeatedly watching extreme gore videos using the school computers. This escalated to the point where he was actually charged with making terroristic threats, and he was put on juvenile detention for a period of 1 year. All of that backstory is to say, when Bradley eventually joined the Cult server, he was no stranger to the graphic violence and the dehumanizing content that he found there. The thing that was new to him, though, was the extreme level of manipulation and blackmail, and that is the exact moment when he decided to start 764.
But 764 is not like other predators and traffickers befriending and love bombing potential victims on mainstream platforms like Roblox, WhatsApp, Minecraft, and Discord. 764 follows the same script on the same platforms, but all of it is rooted in nihilistic extremism.
Using variations of the name Felix, he dropped into chat rooms daily, spreading links, posting explicit images, and urging people to join him in more private spaces. When he was banned, he created new accounts. When users pushed back, he threatened them. He bragged about being device banned from nearly every email service. He said he'd gone through over 400 Felix accounts, 100 more just to get back on Discord. Even Roblox had banned him, twice. In one case, he encouraged a 10-year-old girl to send inappropriate photos of herself. In another, he told someone who had just survived taking their own life to try again. When other users warned him to stop, he laughed. He bragged constantly, said his extortions were wild. Other users called him a god, Felix the CP god. One 14-year-old girl from Oklahoma said she was blackmailed by him into cutting herself on camera, even going so far as making her mutilate her pet hamster. What began as a replica of Cult quickly turned into something more, something ideological. The group borrowed heavily from an older extremist network called the Order of Nine Angles, or O9A. It's a violent organization that merges Satanism, neo-Nazism, and occultism. Members are told to reject empathy, to see morality as weakness. They glorify ritual violence, and they promote a concept called culling, the idea that real power comes from harming others without hesitation. Cadenhead treated O9A like a blueprint. 764 built its identity around the belief that systems should fall. It wasn't created to gain influence or money. It was created to cause harm.
Now, people are split on this. Is the satanic and occult elements just for shock value, or is it something deeper? Well, to understand this, we need to look at the origin of the Church of Satan. Modern satanic philosophy in the West was shaped largely by Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan. And what's interesting is his version wasn't really about worshiping a literal devil. It was about self, desire, gratification. In fact, writings like the Satanic Bible describe it as indulgence over restraint, where what matters most is what gives you power or pleasure.
Even today, groups like the Satanic Temple say they don't believe in a literal Satan at all, but use it as a symbol of rebellion and self-focus. But whether it's symbolic or not, the question isn't what they claim, it's what the outcome is. Even in the original lore of Satan from the Bible and Christian tradition, Satan is described as one who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And when you look at what's happening here, manipulation, harm, destruction, it begs a deeper question. Bradley started this group and went all the way off the deep end, but Trinity was radicalized through the same process. What separated them? They both experienced broken homes, loneliness, abuse, abandonment. They both were recruited into cults as children, and they both wanted to belong somewhere.
Some would say satanic ideology pulled Bradley deeper. Others would say intervention is what saved Trinity. And some would say this could happen to anyone. But when you look at the imagery, the rituals, and the outcome, do you think it's just a meme?
But the violence and destruction of 764 isn't isolated to just individuals. The FBI has identified splinter groups associated with 764 with horrifying plans to take this nihilistic extremism public and in the streets. Trinity's abuser, Keir Cutler, among many others, doing just that.
I was supposed to kill her, and then he was supposed to come, and we were supposed to go on a literal killing spree where he would abduct females, some young females, them, and then kill them.
For many months, I lived in fear that she was going to kill me, and I would sleep with a kitchen knife under my pillow. My animals were behind a locked door. Every door in my house had a lock code.
And then the plan was, like, when the cops inevitably showed up, we were supposed to just shoot ourselves.
But you seriously contemplated it?
I did. He turned me into someone that I would never, ever think of being.
On February 12th, a teenager in Bolzano, Italy, was arrested. He had been collecting weapons, manufacturing explosives, and, according to police, was planning to create a snuff film. He was charged with terrorism, illegal possession of firearms, and the distribution of CSAM. He had links to both 764 and the Order of Nine Angles. And most recently, on May 4th, Brazilian police arrested 3 members of a 764-aligned group that had been planning a mass attack at a Lady Gaga concert in Rio de Janeiro. The suspects had been stockpiling firearms, Molotovs, and explosives. One had live-streamed himself setting a homeless man on fire, and another had allegedly been preparing to carry out a satanic human sacrifice at the concert, targeting a child. All of these arrests happened in the span of 5 months. This can only mean one thing: 764 is still alive and thriving.
The FBI is stepping in as soon as they discover these plans, but how many more splinter groups of 764 are out there but aren't on the FBI's radar yet because they haven't made the jump to domestic terrorism? Well, stay safe.